So we're going to look at some examples from the stages that represent the stages or happen within the stages of the team development cycle. Tim, do you have any examples for us?
So if we begin with an example for the forming stage, a really nice example is based on a very old concept is called lunch and learn. And there's a group of 15 people. They all work in the same office, in the same room. So a nice, big working room. And they have a lunch and learn concept. On Tuesdays and Thursdays, a group of 2 people is responsible for a learning module, and they're allowed to teach anything that they like, anything that they have learned on the project, outside the project, in private life, in whatever it is. And they have 20 minutes to do a small presentation during lunch, and they go to a part of the office in which to do this lunch and learn session. So I found that a really nice example of promoting the internal learning process. And for sure, it's a great way of forming as well. During COVID and Corona, I had a team lead who took all of his people to the park. They had to stand a minimum of 10 meters away and shout at each other for the process of 2 hours and rotate. It's freezing cold, and everybody was shouting each other across 10 meters. And then the police came. And they said, "Do you know each other?" I said, "No, never seen this person before in my life." And so that was a great forming process for a new team and getting to know each other. A chap I work with in Barcelona promised his team to come to Barcelona for over 2 years during COVID again. It was always cancelled and postponed. And then eventually he sent a message out to 36 people. And the message said, "We will meet in May in Barcelona. This time it's almost guaranteed. But it's January at the moment. And between now and then, I want everybody to meet everybody at least 3 times. So my secretary will arrange a whole series of meetings for you. And you'll meet each other 3 times, once in February, once in March, once in April. And your job is to get to know each other, understand what job you're going to have on the project, where you think the main complaints will be, where you think the main problems will be, and what roles and responsibilities you will bring to the table." Which meant over the course of a 3-month period, everybody had something like, everybody had 100 meetings. Yeah. 3 times 35 meetings with each and every person there. The meetings were scheduled for 20 minutes. They ended up normally taking longer than that. And when the team finally came together in Barcelona, when it was the full 36 people there, they were unanimous in saying this was the best project kickoff they had ever been a part of. That was my best example of a really, mechanistic and well thought through forming process for a group of people that had to work together. The fact that 36 people was probably too many is regardless, or doesn't really matter. The actual process was good. Onboarding processes. Yeah. You see some brilliant examples of forming built into the onboarding process. New guy gets a job. Step number 1, the lead sits them down, presents the leadership cockpit to them, presents roles and responsibilities, presents the team canvas, whatever, the presentation material is behind that. The new person looks at it, listens to it, says, "Great, thank you very much. Didn't understand much, but I'm sure I'll start working it out." And then the new person is put into a process of meeting each and every person on the team once a week for 6 weeks, has to interview each and every person. What do you do? What do you do again? Who are you? Where did you study? Where did you go? What do you expect from me? What are my main jobs going to be? And then 6 weeks later, 8 weeks later, again, back to that presentation with the lead. And then the new person, the new hire, can look at that original leadership presentation again. And now the light switches on and they say, "Aha, now I understand everything that I need to do in a much better quality." And the new hire had the responsibility of connecting with other members of the team. So it wasn't them who needed to reach out to him or her. It was him or her who needed to reach out to them. Forming was their responsibility, which I thought was a great method of doing it as well. There's a couple of examples from the many thousands of examples that are there for forming. And these examples are all within the working process. So no beer, no pizza, but embedded within the nature of the work itself.
Great. Mike, do you have an example for the storming stage?
Yeah. So the storming stage, of course, is significantly different to the forming stage, because the key element of the storming stage is you want to create discourse, disagreement. You don't want to create conflict in a negative sense, but you do want to create this environment where people can feel as though they can disagree with one another, with the purpose of exploring different areas and understanding all of the potential ideas that you could find. So we mentioned brainstorming as a very simple process. A brainstorming meeting can work pretty well. But just in terms of a slightly more structured approach, if we have, let's say we have that 7-people team, you could create kind of roles, which we actually mentioned in previous videos. For example, Leaders Lead Learning, the role of the supporter, the role of the devil's advocate, for example. So, for and against any particular idea. So you as the leader, for example, could put a particular topic on the table. You could assign 2 people in the meeting to be pro. You could assign 2 people in the meeting to be con, and you could maybe assign the other 2 or 3 people as the audience, as the people that need to be persuaded. So that would work really well. And in the end, they could actually be the ones to maybe make a decision as to what they think is the right direction to go in. So this idea of creating an environment where not only is it necessary, but it's actually promoted and wanted to have people with differing ideas and opposing views is the real bread and butter and the real meat of the storming process. Now, Joanna, a question for you. I mean, I think we can already see a lot of value of the team development cycle. What other value and areas of benefit does this concept have for leaders?
For me, the key value is in the visualization aspect that it contains. And I have a question for you, Tim. You often use the expression putting the fish on the table. Could you give us an example of what that looks like?
The expression putting the fish on the table is I had a friend called Betty, and she was a facilitator. And she used to draw a fish. There we go. Good example of a fish. She would draw a fish onto a moderation card. And in the meetings where she was running, if she felt that the truth was not being spoken about, she would draw the fish and then throw the fish under the table. And she would say, the fish is under the table. If people didn't know her, they would look very strangely at each other, and until somebody said, I think what Betty means is that the fish represents the truth. The fish represents the elephant in the room, another animal analogy. And I think Betty wants us to pick up the fish and put it on the table. Eventually, somebody would reach under the table, get the card, put the fish on the table, and then start speaking about the truth. I've no idea where the analogy comes from. One idea is that the fish stinks from the head down. Could be that. Another idea is that the fish in some religions is the emblem of truth. You see it on the clothes of the priest in the Catholic Church. They've got little pictures of fish on their clothes. Apparently, it's got something to do with truth. But anyway, putting the fish on the table is a method of saying very quickly to teams, let's get to the point, let's raise conflict in a way that everybody knows that it's being raised and we can deal with it effectively, which is one of those, methods of getting to the norming stage. So by putting the fish on the table, you introduce the storming stage and you make a request from the people sitting there, let's move forward quicker.
Very interesting. It just linked so well with the visualization. Now everyone will know when they, see a fish what we're talking about. So how do you do this in the context of being a leader? How do you put the fish on the table? For instance, what you can do, put this model on a whiteboard or a flip chart or a mirror board or a common space of the team, somewhere where everyone can see it. And you draw the team development cycle on the board and you explain it. You make sure everyone understands all the stages and the specific of each stage. And you invite them up to the board to put the position on the team development cycle where they think they are at the moment. So, where are you as a team member of this team? Are you in the forming stage? Are you in the storming stage? Are you performing? What I would like to remind leaders is that there will be differences of opinion. But this is a good thing, because then you can start exploring the differences. And why would you do this? Because by doing this, you are confronting people with their perception of performance, with the status quo. When we are performing well, how does it look like? When we are not performing not so well, how does it look like? And you will gain a much clearer idea on what type of intervention is needed in order for people to move through this process quicker, easier, maybe have more focus or positivity and less friction. This is what I would see as putting the fish on the table within a team.
Absolutely. And, having that picture up there on the wall of a Jourfix environment or a Miro board or a mural board or whatever tool that you're using where the team comes together is important. Bringing that picture into a meeting type such as a retrospective is also really, really important. It creates a very quick discussion point into, let's identify what we're not doing as well as we could be doing. What do we keep? What do we improve? What do we start? What do we stop? And why do we stop it? And then is there any reflection on the performance of the team? How are we working together at the moment? So that picture can come through in a number of different instances in the life cycle of the team itself, to make sure that everybody's aware that good performance is the goal that we're trying to achieve.
If we look at, we've discussed a little bit about what a high performing team would look like, and I want to clarify something. What do you think is the essential criteria of a high-performing team? Mike?
Yeah, so we briefly touched on this when we described the four sections, but it's really important to reiterate and just highlight in a bit more detail what that means. And we can really highlight two key areas of when a team is performing. So the first area is that the goals are clear and fully defined, but not just the goals, also the sense of purpose, the sense of achievement and direction within the team, so that the whole team feels as though they're moving together towards one kind of goal, one kind of area where they can really define success. But this process is also, broken down into manageable steps along that path. So it's not that the goal is way off in the distance and we're all trying to reach out so far to get it. It's that we can plan and we can see how each part is moving closer and closer towards that ultimate goal. So the first thing is common goal, but common purpose as well. And the second thing is really a sense of mutual accountability. So the sense that each person is relying on the other person and is reliable to the other person. So I want to feel like I can rely on you, and I want you to feel like you can rely on me. I want to demonstrate that I'm there to be a part of this team, to support you, and I want to feel supported in my role as well. So we did highlight it already, just the fact that maybe there's a slight crossover of skills, so that if somebody is missing or if somebody needs a little bit of support, then there's always a structure there that can ensure that happens. So with these two things, the common goal and purpose and accountability, then you're absolutely on your way to being very, very high performing. And this is where we really see the 1 + 1 = 3.